All set for the Norfolk, and they're away. Just a little slow was Naval Light in the red cap, fast into stride near side Charles Darwin, who looks the early leader in the hands of Ryan Moore, dark blue jacket. A Meek on the far side. In the firing line too is Star Material with Clear Force and a little brother in the spotted jacket. They're followed by Sandals Song and Exclamation in red and orange. Away to the left, Afghan in the silver silks, alongside Graf behind Amik. For Godolphin, Wise approaches towards the rear of the field. Irish Fighter is a bit behind at the moment, and so too is Naval Light and Hey True Blue. Charles Darwin now being taken on by Sandals Song and Amik, and Ryan Moore begins to push away, followed by Afghan. Graf far side Wise approaches that run down towards the final furlong. Charles Darwin knuckling down well here, gets back to the lead from Sandals Song, and then Amik behind these Wise approach and racing up towards the line. It's another whiz-bang 2-year-old for Aidan O'Brien. It's Charles Darwin, and he's in the Breeders' Cup after this Norfolk Stakes win. Wise approach in second.
Hey everybody, Ren Carruthers here. Can you believe it? Season 8 of the Future Stars forecast. And that was Charles Darwin. He was punching his ticket to the juvenile turf sprint there at Royal Ascot. And fun fact about that horse, a son of No Nay Never. And I have No Nay Never's trainer with me to kick things off. Who better to talk about the babies than Wesley Ward? Hey, Wesley.
Hey, how we doing, Ren? Thanks for having me on.
No, my gosh, thank you for joining us. You know, I like to start the season off with you. And I mean, how cool is that for you? I mean, No Nay Never was such a talent. You know, this is a horse who's already had so much success at stud, but to have taken him across the pond, to have as much success as you've had, this horse is going to be now targeting. And by the way, I should mention he's a brother to Blackbeard, which is pretty cool. But going to go to the Prix Morny, a race that you won with No Nay Never. Pretty neat.
Yeah, that he's following his father's footsteps.
I mean, when we look at this, standing there at Coolmore, I'm going to go ahead and pop this up because I just think it's pretty neat. So when you look at No Nay Never and just this record he's amassed here at stud already. I mean, you can see there, if you could have everybody, if you have time and you head over to the Coolmore website, they have their different bases from around the world represented there with their different roster of stallions. But this is a son of Scat Daddy, and that's just such a potent sire line. You have all these grade 1 winners at 2 years old, so the precociousness is always there. When he won the Norfolk himself, that was in a record time. So that was a pretty cool afternoon for you, I would say, right?
Yeah, well, that was a great time. Joel Rosario rode him that day, and it was great. I'll tell you, we had so much fun. My kids were little guys back then, and they were all there, so we had a big time. And after the race, we were invited up to watch a race with the Queen, all of us, and we just had so much fun doing it.
My gosh. Well, I was going to talk a little bit more about all that black type you see under No Nay Never as a stallion now, but let's go back to that because I actually was down at Tampa. For those who don't know me very well, again, Ren Carruthers here, and I'm also the host analyst for Tampa Bay Downs, where your father, Dennis Ward, will run some horses. And I happened to have some time to chat with some of the locals there at Tampa this last trip. And he told me this fantastic story about himself at Ascot with a hat and the Queen. Can you tell us that story? Because I cracked up.
Yeah, the cowboy hat. I think they didn't, it's a very strict dress code, and he asked if he could wear, the first couple of days he wore or the first day he wore a top hat and tails, and then he asked them permission if he could wear his cowboy hat, and they said you're allowed to wear a Stetson, which is a cowboy hat, a black one, and so he that's what he got to wear the rest of the trip.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. Yeah, he told me that the Queen actually saw him and said, "I like your hat."
Yeah.
cracked me up. Your dad is a great storyteller. But it is pretty heartening to hear about how you've had all this fun over at Royal Ascot. You know, you've seen the kids grow up going there with you, and now your son Riley recently married, semi-recently,
Yeah,
right?
Caitlin Dunn. Yeah,
Yep.
Kieran
And
Dunn's daughter.
yep, she's awesome. I happened to see them both on my birthday. Actually, that's the last time I saw them at Keeneland, up there in the redone room that was done for the Queen, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I had also seen them in Dubai, and I got to tell you real quick. I know this show's about the 2-year-olds, but Nakatomi ran his heart out that day.
Yeah, he did. He ran a great race. Yeah, that son of mine, he gets around that boy.
I know, yeah. Gotta, get the jet set lifestyle in. Before we go back to the 2-year-olds, though, talking about Nakatomi, how did he come out of that last race? And
Good. He came out really good. Usually I give him a lot more time when they come back from there. But that being his first race since the Breeders' Cup, we kind of watching him and his energy level, which is a lot of times the horses I bring there, it takes a little while to get him back going. And this guy wasn't. So I called Fergus Galvin and Alex Cole, the two, they manage the owners for Sheikh Fahd and for Jim and Fitri Hay. And I told them that this guy might be able to come back a little quicker than we do usually than we did previous year. And we picked out a race up in Saratoga. And unfortunately, he was training well and doing everything right going into the race. But the first jump kind of got us. He got left at the gates and it was just too much for him to overcome. But he did run a real big race and he ran a big number on the Ragozin sheet. So we're hopeful that we can get him back again.
they're in the True North at the Saratoga, but the Belmont card at Saratoga. What is the key? I mean, we always talk about you with the babies, but I mean, Nakatomi, how old is he now?
6.
Yeah, and he's just a cool customer. He's so calm. I remember the video you guys posted of him with, I think it was a little girl, right? Hopping on board.
Fergus's daughter. Yeah.
Yeah.
She rides for good luck.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I mean, he's a horse that's really just been very endearing, I think, to those who've had the pleasure of watching him. And so what is the key to keeping them, going off on the right foot and then keeping the trajectory towards success?
We spend a lot of time, as everyone does, with the yearlings turning 2, and I try not to over race them. Only give them a few runs at 2, and then give them the winners off. I think that's a big key. And then they come back, and they're the start of my year is at Keeneland for a lot of the better horses that I have. So I'll give them from the Breeders' Cup or a race after the rest of the winter off, and then have them pick them back up from whatever farm they go to sometime in January, to where they'll have them ready for Keeneland in April. And then that kind of takes me on for the rest of the year until the fall of this year. A lot of the other horses, that'll have injuries or what have you, or then we'll target Turfway Park, because the purses are so well.
Yeah.
There's really, really good purses in the wintertime with some of the horses that are of lesser quality. We'll kind of focus on that meet. And then some of the better horses that we have that, have a minor injury, we'll give them the summers off, then they'll be targeted for that. But for the most part, most of my horses, the better ones I have, are given the winters off. And I think that's what attributes to the longevity.
Well, what have you seen, if anything, change regarding the horses and the continued, just success, or at least keeping them ready to fire from now to like 10 years back? Has there been a change at all? Has there been anything you've had to adjust to in regard to that, and how you like to space your races, how you like to take your time off?
I think I learned a lot by going over to Europe for all these years. I try to go to a different yard if they'll have me, and a lot of the trainers over there are welcoming, to where I can kind of talk to them, and that's how you learn in this game. There's no real set book or school to where you learn how to train. You kind of learn by talking to some of the better trainers and seeing what their how they would do things. And that's, I've taken that from my travels all over the world. Even as a jockey, when I was a jockey, I paid close attention to
An
when I went
Eclipse
overseas.
award-winning jockey.
When I went overseas and rode, I paid a lot more attention than say a normal rider would, about just kind of focused on riding, because I knew my career, as chubby as I am now, was going to come to an end at some point. And so I just, that's how you learn, is by asking questions and kind of observing.
Was there anything that you have learned along the way that was actually a game changer for you?
There's so many, you never stop learning in this game too. Each and every year I go over to England, I'll be asking questions and kind of keeping my eyes open and seeing how people do things, and how certain trainers with certain horses change their training tactics and what they do, and what have you. It's just it's a great game. I wake up every day with a smile. I'm so happy to get out there to be with these horses that and it's it's like I tell my kids, when you got to find a job that you love, to where it's not work, it's a lifestyle, and that's what I've had for all my whole life.
That is so true. And it's fun because this has been a family lifestyle, going back generation after generation for you. I remember you told me a story before you got put on a horse on the back as a little kid, on the backside of Saratoga.
In Belmont Park.
Oh, it was at Belmont.
Yeah.
And what happened? You got did you take off with you?
Yeah, I could ride since I was a little guy, and we went. I'm born and raised in Washington State, but a few Christmases, my grandfather was the outrider there, and he put me on the back of his pony, and something spooked the pony, and off he went up to, like he does every day. And ponies, as you know, they'll do the same thing. So when he got to the top, he stopped, and I turned him around and came back down, and everybody was worried, and there wasn't a problem.
No.
Yeah, it was. But anyways, it's been a good ride. I'll tell you that. It's had a lot of fun, and still having a lot of fun.
Absolutely. But I know the fun that was a little tempered. This is, I believe, the first time in 12 years that you haven't been at the Royal Ascot meeting, and you had a horse who looked like he was going to be a major threat there, talking about Outfielder. But nothing major, no major setback. Can you talk to us about this horse? He cost a pretty penny. What caught your eye?
He's just a beautiful horse. I bought two horses out of the sale. This being one, the other being a horse named Schwarzenegger that I'm very excited that's going to run at Saratoga here in 2 weeks' time, or 2.5 weeks' time. So excited for that guy too to get going. And they were just two kind of horses that I was trying to do everything I could to put some sort of a partnership together to buy both, and luckily enough we got them. Looking forward to both horses, especially Outfielder. He ran such a powerful race. When they do that on top of another race, which Ascot was coming up pretty quick. Usually my 2-year-olds debut in April at Keeneland, so you have a good 2-month span to get him over one race and on to the next. And this guy, he came out of the race really well. We worked him on the grass at Keeneland, and he came out with just a little bit of a shin out of the workout. So we just gave him a little bit of time now. He's training great. We got a little bit of a heat spell here at right now in the Midwest, or actually on the whole East Coast. So I'm just jogging him, and he'll start his work schedule back probably in about 10 days time, and get ready for the morning.
I have the replay, not the entire replay, but let's see here, of Outfielder. This was his debut. He crushed it by 6 1/4 lengths. Let's see here. Make sure we get the volume down. And here he is. Was this exactly what you were anticipating? Did you know he was this good?
I did. I really did. He had been working with the other colt, and the other colt was meant for this race. And he got a shin going into the last
Really?
race. So this guy being sound, little bit of an unknown was the grass, because I didn't do any workouts with either of those two colts down in Florida. They just kind of went around the different tracks that I take them to and galloped, and they went to the gate at each track, so they were very good coming out of the gate, but no workouts at all. And they both of them didn't start their workouts till right around the 1st of April. So they both came to hand really quick, but like I said, the horse Schwarzenegger that was meant for the race, we had Johnny V that had been on him multiple times here at Keeneland in the morning. He was scheduled to come. And so this colt was actually meant for a race at Aqueduct the Sunday prior to this Friday, and the race didn't go. Didn't draw enough horses for the race. So being such a safe surface, meaning grass, we put him in, and he'd been on the grass galloping a few times in Florida with David Flores and a lot of my other riders that work for me. And I really value David's opinion. He said, oh yeah, Wesley, he loves the grass. So we entered him. We put Johnny on because he was scheduled to ride the other colt. Unfortunately, because Joel Rosario, who had been breezing him, was tied up for Christophe Clement, some horses that Friday at Aqueduct, and couldn't get off. And I was very confident in the race because of his workouts. But a little bit of an unknown was grass, and he took to it like a fish to water. Off he went. But I'm real excited for this colt. He's a big colt. He's a lot of, I've said this a few times, a lot of big horses have airway issues, and this guy's got a big, huge throat, no problem with his breathing, and he's got a big, long stride, and so his future, I'm very, very excited about this guy.
Now, are we looking, I know when I briefly spoke with you on the phone the other day, potential collision here with taking him to the Prix-Morny. Maybe we hook up with Charles Darwin.
Well, if he's there, we'll be with him. Pending this guy of mine, these horses, they'll change overnight, I'm ultra conservative with this guy. So his shin's come around perfect right now. And so we're gonna. I text Jason Worth and Kia, the horse training on the track, and he's just strides right on out, and I'm so excited with him. I'm sharing a lot of my thoughts and what I'm doing with them, with the two owners, so they're excited for him as well. But this guy's got such a big long stride. That's what I like about the Prix-Morny. It's 6 furlongs, not 5.
Mm-hmm.
And No Nay Never was more of a sprinter type. This guy's got a big long stride to him, yet he's very, very fast. So I think that with that big long stride, the 6 furlongs is going to be a little bit of an advantage. I have yet to see Charles Darwin, only on the videos, but he's a very, very impressive colt. He won convincingly. But the ones that I've had that I've run in the Morny that are sprinters, that extra 1/8 of a mile, you're kind of, even Lady Aurelia that's won the race.
Yeah.
You're kind of like, oh, what happened? They're 5, they're great, and you never know what this one. And he's got the greatest trainer in the world, Aidan O'Brien. So I'm sure it won't be an issue, but I'm sure that we'll give him a run for his money.
So you've had No Nay Never win the Prix-Morny, Lady Aurelia, and Campanelle.
Yeah,
or Campanelli, depending on how you're feeling.
Second with Hootenanny.
Yes.
We were second. We were in a great race too. So 4 starts, 3 wins in the second. So it's a race I know very well. It's an easy race to get to, travel wise, because we just go up the road to Chicago, and I'll probably spend the night there with my the horse will spend the night with my buddy Larry Velli, and he'll go right over, and it's a direct flight to Chantilly, which it's just right down the street. We'll be in Deauville, so it's a real easy flight to get to Deauville from Keeneland.
Can you talk a little bit how this group came around? Because it sounds like it's a fun gang. I mean, you've got Jason Worth, World Series fame, and then Ammo Racing, that's Kia Durabjian. And so we're seeing a lot more of his horses coming over here, I think, than we have in the past. Yeah,
he's a great guy. Both guys are great guys. So picked these 2 horses out at the sale, sort of centered in with my buddy Charlie O'Connor for the other colt. And
I love Charlie.
We formulated a partnership there for that guy. But the other guy, I didn't really have any owners for, and I loved him. So Jason came into the sale, of which I've trained for quite some time. I was one of his first, if not the first trainer he had, maybe the first. My friend Rich Averill introduced me to him, and we kind of hit it off, and he's been a great guy. So I told him about the colt, and he says, you know what, Wesley? He says, I think I'll take 20%. I said, all right. So we bought the colt. It was just him and I was 80, he was 20, which I couldn't afford at 80. And my son was with me when we were bidding, my son Riley. And he went back to the table after I signed for the colt, and he sat down with Kieran Dunn, and Kia was there, and his wife, Caitlin. And he says, man, we got a really nice colt. My dad's all excited. And Kia said, which one's that? So then Kia came up, talked to me, and said, I'd like to take part of them. I said, all right. I said, you're in, because I need you.
I love it. It's really, I think, interesting how these partnerships come to be. And this is a horse. He looks like he has so much tremendous upside. He's a son of Speightstown, champion sprinter, and then he's out of stakes winning daughter of Medaglia d'Oro. You got Red Rifle in the pedigree. It's pretty lit.
It is, and you know, like all these horses, they have different personalities to them. And this guy right now, you know, being a 2-year-old, he'd be like the all-star quarterback on a high school football team. Like he just knows it. You know, he knows he's really good.
So he's got the Golden Pal swagger, is what you're telling me.
He does. Like he really does. Like you bring him out, and he's a big guy, and he's just like got his chest sticking out there. He's a real docile colt, though. Like little 105-pound guy gets on him every day. So he's really easy to handle and easy on himself, which is good. But but when you're around the barn with him, like he knows he's going to be the dad.
Oh, I love that because you felt that way about Golden Pal, and he lived up to that. And you know, he's on a very short list of horses to have won 2 different divisions of the Breeders' Cup. Of course, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint, and then the Turf Sprint itself, kind of avenging his dam, Lady Shipman, which I love. But he's such a cool customer also. And one of my favorite memories with you, I will never forget it. We were at Keeneland for one of the prep races toward the Breeders' Cup, and it was you and the Lows and some of their friends, and you win. The race was about to go off. You got a drink from the bar. You're like, does anybody else want anything? I was like, no, my stomach's all nervous because, you know, friends with everybody. So I'm there to root them on. And you're just sipping up as the race goes off. He crosses the wire. You throw the cup. You're like, let's go to the winner's circle. And it was just like, what? Did that just happen? I mean, I would have been a nervous wreck.
I really was. I just didn't show it.
You could have been James Bond. You're just like,
yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah. It was a great day. It was a great horse, and we had great times. And hopefully he'll emulate No Nay Never, where he goes on, you know, at Ashford over here, Coolmore on America, and is a great sire as well. He's a beautiful, beautiful horse. When you see him physically at the Stallion Barn now, he's really, really highly intelligent colt, just like No Nay Never was. So hopefully they pass that on to their progeny, and he goes on to do great things like the other guy.
Well, I hope so. And not to sound like a total creeper, but we have your photo on our wall because I have the winner's circle photo from when we were all in there for the Breeders' Cup. And it's on the wall there. And it's just a great memory and a cool horse who's gotten a ton of support. Do you have any babies?
I do. I have a few, so I'm looking forward to him. You know, I try to get with all the mares I can. He's just booked up so much, but anything I can breed to him, I do.
And, you know, it's also nice for Coolmore to have him, you know, their Uncle Mo passed away. So that was a shocker.
Yeah.
When that news came out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully this guy lives up to his dad's shoes as well. So we'll see what happens.
Wesley is amazing with 2-year-olds. Absolutely. Do you ever feel like, oh, I'm kind of getting pigeonholed as the 2-year-old guy, or do you like that?
I'll take it.
What is the key? One of the things you can always trust with a Wesley Ward baby is when they're entered to run. They will run, and they always have gate speed.
Yeah, this time of the year, you know, we will focus on, you know, a lot of the clients I have and supporters of my barn will give me fast early types, and you get them going early, and you have some, the purses are so good now, had you waited on the majority of them, they probably wouldn't have got those big purses, or once all the better maiden special weight horses come out, as far as and the distance as well. We're running for 4.5, 5 furlongs. There's a lot of horses that are very, very effective at those distances, yet when they stretch out to in August and September, they don't run those distances anymore. You run 6 furlongs, so now you're having to compete against a tougher field at a distance where the horse really doesn't prefer, that isn't very good at. So, if we can kind of get some nice horses that are fast and typey, quarter horse type looking horses, and get not only a win, but also an early stakes win, which the stakes start out at 5.5 furlongs, you accomplish a lot for your clients.
Is there a point that you really feel confident that whether or not this was just going to be a precocious horse, could get things done early, but eventually the rest of that crop is going to catch up?
Yeah, I do. And yet the ones that do run and win early, and limited in distance, then we hope that they will go on to be grass horses or take to the grass, because for the rest of their lives they can still run in a 5.5 furlong turf race somewhere at one of these tracks.
Do you, over the course of your career, do you have a horse that still stands out as just being like your heart horse?
Several. First being Judy the Beauty. She's
still out there in your paddock.
She'll be out there till her last day.
I love that.
She's awesome. She's she's like a Labrador. She comes running up for peppermint candies, and every time the truck comes by, she knows the different vehicles. And she'll come up there, and she's just awesome. She's just she's probably not going to be the mare or definitely not going to probably be the mare that she was the racehorse, but I'm hoping that the fillies that I have out of her will be something.
Oh, Judy the Beauty, was it the 2014 Breeders' Cup filly and mare sprint?
Yep.
Yeah. It's so cool. And by the way, you're based right there at Keeneland. When we had all that rain a couple months ago, how impacted were you by that?
It actually helped me. If you're here in Kentucky, you couldn't get another blade of grass in the field. It's great, for the horses as well. So, a lot of times when you get to rain like this, it's the first few months of a foal's life, they're running around, and if you can get these hot days and we don't get rain for a while, it gets really hard, and you can get issues with them as far as just like running chips or what have you. But when the ground's soft like this and the grass is lush, it's really easy on them.
Well, there's just so much that goes into not only managing your stable, but you've got your own horses. It's a beautiful area back there where you keep Judy, and you have that availability to put them out and in those paddocks there by Keeneland. One of the other meets I know that we definitely need to look out for you, not only is Saratoga, but the Kentucky Downs meet.
It's getting tougher though. It's just down the street for us, and we do target that meet. We kind of ease up the last part of Saratoga to focus on Kentucky Downs. A lot of the horses that'll be each and every race you kind of look at, and now you got to hope to get in. There's so much money down there that every race is oversubscribed, so you not only target that race, but you go to enter, and you might not be able to get in because there's so many people that are wanting to compete for that kind of money.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But part of the reason why I was wondering is when you do have the availability to have, the land, the space that you do, that configuration, that track itself is just so unique. And do you feel like you have an extra benefit? Are you able to hack your horses around the Keeneland grounds and whatnot? And
No. But if you have the horse there, it's a great place. I've been racing there long before they ever gave that kind of money away. I've always liked that. I just like that track.
How do you prepare them for that? It's so exciting to watch. I love the meet. I've had a little trouble handicapping because you're used to seeing these horses just run the flat 2-turn races, a regular hook. And here we've got as they say, the undulating surface.
Well, it's not preparing the horses for it, because there's nowhere to prepare for that type of, once a year type track. And if you have the horse, a lot of it is the rider, a lot of it is the jockey. You got to really know that track. Whereas, Frankie came in last year, and it's just like he's the king down, just like he is in Europe. I mean, he just jumped out there and won some races for me that I probably wouldn't have won with another rider. And he'd either put horses that come from a little bit behind, on the day, if it was a hot day and the turf was firm, he'd put them right in front instead of coming from a little off the pace, and vice versa. He would take one back if he felt like the pace was a little too strong or whatever it was. What he does worked. So that's why he is who he is. So a lot of that is a rider's track, a jockey's track.
That makes so much sense. Is there something that, as a handicapper, that you feel we should take more in mind, besides maybe putting a little more emphasis on a rider than we normally would when we're looking at a track like Kentucky Downs?
I'd say the weather would be important. If it rains, it slows the track down a little bit. And if it doesn't, it speeds it up if there's a lot of hot and dry weather, which it usually is. But, over the years, it's a very safe track for me. Never had a horse get hurt down there, ever, not once. And, we've done very, very well for the clients. The horses have made a lot of money over the years, and had a lot of great days there.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to this meet for sure. And another horse I'm also looking forward to seeing run again, and I don't know if you're going to be targeting anything with this one, is one that just won a couple of days ago, Longshoreman. And
actually, very nice colt. Very nice colt. He was meant for Ascot. And we had him down in Florida early on and moved him up to Kentucky like January, February, to get him ready for the one turf race they have. And unfortunately, in the race, Irad rode him, and there was another long shot type horse that was in there on the inside that had run once, and the boy on that horse kind of sent him out of there and kept sending, and Irad tried to get our guy off of him, because it was just going way too fast up front, he said, and the last eighth of a mile just took its toll on our guy. And he just got a little bit late from going so fast early.
And that was 5.5. Yeah.
That was 5.5. And 5.5 in April for a 2-year-old is a long, long ways. It's a long distance. Like, 4.5 is great. I think it's perfect, especially at Keeneland, where they don't go around a turn. They kind of go straight into a turn and just make an easy left, because it comes out of the chute. So it's a great start for a horse's career. Whereas this is it's a kind of a grueling 5.5 for a 2-year-old.
Especially with the opening quarter is 21-3.
Yeah, he was kind of rolling right along, and so we gave him some time and run him here at Churchill, and with that experience he had, it's just off he went. I was gonna run him off of the second place finish in the Windsor Castle, and I just thought might be a little bit too much to ask with not an unsure of the horse's quality. He was beaten, given excuses, but he was beaten at the end of the day, and he came back and vindicated that, to where we're hopeful. There's a wealth of 2-year-old races coming up here, stakes races, Kentucky Downs. There's Saratoga and other places. So we'll pick somewhere out, and he came out of the race very sound, scoped great, so he's got a big future.
Well, I think the other thing that's pretty cool about this horse, son of Twirling Candy, but he's out of a half-sister to Lady Aurelia.
Yeah, and I trained her. She won. Yeah. She won really, really nice for Barbara at Keeneland in her first start. And we took her over early and ran her at Ascot a month prior to the meet. And Johnny went over and rode her again over there. And she ran a really good second. And then I left her there with Ollie Sangster, who's now a trainer in his own right, doing very well in England. And she injured her knee, so we brought her home, and then Barbara just bred her.
Yeah, well, the cool thing about Lady Aurelia was that she gave you a championship over there. Did you get to attend and collect, the award? And
No, I didn't, unfortunately, but Barb was there and Peter Lydell and, the owners were there and they all had a great time. And so, it was great to have a horse trained in America, but won a championship over there, a champion sprinter in Europe. So that was, and she was a special horse. She had such great memories.
do you get your own Cartier, or is it just the?
Just the horse, just the ownership group. But
Maybe you get a reproduction.
yeah, right. But, it was yeah, it was a hell of a ride. We had a great fun.
Well, what type of? I mean, the other thing I just love about her is because she would just throw it down, and to beat the boys. What do you have to see from a filly or mare that they can take them on?
Um, it wasn't that she just beat the boys. She beat the boys in June of her 3-year-old year, so she was still, just turned 3. She was just so fast. And there were, it was, but like I said, she came out running and won, and we took her to Arlington Park, and my good buddy Chris Polzin let us breeze on the grass, and it had rained that day. That was a work prior to going over there, like a big rainstorm. So it was a soft going at Arlington prior to us getting on the plane to go to Ascot. And she broke off. Jose Valdivia worked her. I remember this, and he set back about 7 or 8 lengths off of 2 other horses that were going to run. And when they got around to turn, he could tell he was just full of run. And the other 2 horses that worked in tandem and 7 or 8 lengths in front of her, she just eased out and she just blew by them in a gallop. And just the other 2 were kind of floundering with the soft turf. And you could tell she was never going to have any issues with soft going. So on the day of the Queen Mary, when she was 2, there was a big question mark, like, should we scratch? Should we run? Should we scratch? And I said, Barbara, I told her just like I told you this story. And she just ate up the soft turf. But what like I said earlier, when we went on to the pre-morning, there was such big, huge, high, like she was, what kind of horse do we have here? And she broke, and Frankie sat on her, and it was right down towards the last part of it. We're like, oh man, we might get beat, because there's a big difference from 5 to 6. Yeah. So, and then we centered in on 5, and she was one of the best sprinters I've ever had. I mean, and there ever was on the grass. At 5 furlongs, she was like, when she was on the top of her game, she would have matched up there with the best of them.
Oh, wow. Well, in 2018, when Matt, myself, and Ava was just a little itty bitty, just a couple months old, and we saw Lady Aurelia, and she could not have been sweeter to Ava. She already had this is before she, gotten in full for the first time, or had a full anyway, and she was so sweet. She already had the instinct.
Yeah, she was just a group, just an awesome horse to train.
So how cool is it to have her, this relation in Longshoreman with
he's we're hoping he's half as good as her, and we'll have a lot of fun. But he's come out running right now. And
he had a 5.5 length victory there at Churchill. I mean, those are fast. I mean, he went 21-3, 44-3. Yeah. Closed out in 56-1.
What's funny about this guy is we got him, bought him to sale off Barbara, and he was nice colt, a little bit steady at first, and then he kind of settled right in. And I gave him a little time on after the sale, turned him out with a couple other colts. Actually turned out with Outfielder and this Schwarzenegger. They were all turned out together in a paddock together, and they were all buddies, and they all went down in December to Florida. And this guy because he's kind of a big hardy colt, kind of went off his feet a little bit, and we were kind of changing things around and got him back up here. I brought him actually back up to Kentucky early because of the weather. It was kind of hot down there. I thought, let me get him back up to Kentucky because they eat a little better in the cooler weather, and still had a little funny. He wouldn't eat all of his feed, even though appearance-wise he was a real colt. He just wouldn't eat everything. And so I ended up calling Robert Turner, that runs Barbara's farm over here, and I said, Robert, man, I got a little problem here. I said, I said, this guy's, I feed hallway feed, you know, all over the world. Wherever I go, I send the feed with him. I said, and this one guy, he just doesn't like it. And we tried this, that, the other. And he said, he told me what the horse was raised on, Macaulay's feed right here in Versailles. And so he's the only horse I trained my whole life that we get one special feed that Robert Turner told us that he's raised on, and he eats the bottom out of the feed tub now. So I call him after the race, and I said, Robert, I can't thank you enough, buddy. He's a great guy too. Yeah.
Who knew, right?
Yeah.
That's like the picky kid. It's so weird. Like, I tell my daughter, she doesn't like mashed potatoes. I'm like, I think you might be the only kid that does not like mashed potatoes.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. Like I used to bring my 3 kids just about every night. We'd go and have Ben and Jerry's ice cream when they were growing up. And my youngest son, Jack, he'd only order coffee ice cream, was a little 7-year-old kid, you know, and if they didn't have it, wouldn't order it. Nope, no ice cream for me.
My gosh, nothing else would satisfy, apparently. My goodness. I actually do have the little stretch run here of Longshoreman winning. This was just on the 20th of this month. Let's see here. It says never a doubt. Never a doubt. Let me sure we got, and there he is. Yeah. And I've told you this before, but I do so love the Wesley Ward blinkers. Whenever you see a horse coming down the stretch and you see that double WW, looks like a superhero.
There you go. Well, he looked like one there, didn't he?
Yeah, for sure. When they just rip the hearts out of their competition like that. I mean, if you were on the other end of a horse scoring like that, how do you build the confidence back up?
Well, you got to drop down a little bit.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay. You've been so generous with your time. If you could just give us, when you say, you're saying Schwarzenegger, like Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah.
Robin, did you have to get approval for the name?
No, Robin Murray from, she was searching through, and they just had recently released the name. She goes, what do you think about this one? I loved it, because he's, I'm real excited about this guy too. And we breezed him on the grass at Johnny V had been breezing him this whole time here in Keeneland. And we promised, David Flores promised him, which we thought was the best one early on. And so David picked out this colt for Johnny. And
is he real muscular?
Yeah, he's a real, kind of a hardy guy. And when we were working together here, we were kind of looking at running him, like I said, in that race, and he came up with a shin. So we backed off him, and now he worked last week at Saratoga last Friday with Victor Espinoza on him, and man, the workout was just awesome. So I'm real excited for this guy as well. He just floated over the ground, and worked him with another horse of mine, and he just widened on it. A no-name never colt, and just outworked him by 4 or 5 lengths. And it was so I'm real excited. He's going to breeze again this Friday. I'm going to go up to watch the breeze at Saratoga just to see him go. And, and hopefully, if he runs like he works, I'll have another good one. So we're crossing our fingers.
That's pretty cool. Has anybody reached out to Arnold and let him know there's a horse waiting in the wings who could be, pretty talented?
We'll get there first, before we do that. The morning stuff and the afternoon stuff sometimes can fool you, but this guy, I've always really loved this colt as well. So we'll see what happens out in the races, and then maybe once we accomplish a little more, we'll knock on his door.
That's awesome. But yeah, I know that the pressure's on, right? When you ever have a name like that, and then on top of it, just by virtue of, I think everybody's always anticipating. People don't even really need to know much. You tend to go off in the 2-year-old races as the favorite, or at least second choice, even if nobody knows anything about what the horse is necessarily capable of. Do you notice that yourself, or are you just like entering your horses? I'm not being bothered about what the public is thinking that they should do. Let's just see if we can get it done. Period.
No, you just prepare your horse and get him to the race the best you possibly can, and that's it.
All right. Well, okay. Before I let you go, because I know there's still much to be done. I think you have horses entered today.
No, we have nothing running today.
Oh, I thought you did. Mm-mm. Oh, okay. I thought you had something for some reason at where was it? Oh, you know what? It was, no, you're right. Nothing today. It's a Tuesday anyway, but this weekend you do for sure. Is there anybody that we should be looking forward to in particular?
Schwarzenegger.
Other than him. Other than him.
Yeah, I think I've got some good chances coming up here in the next. I'm kind of picking my spots until Saratoga opens. I've got a really nice colt that runs Friday at Aqueduct, Touchy, and Joel Rosario's rode him every start of his life. So I'm kind of waiting for him to kick in and hopefully and be. I was real excited for him, prior to him ever running. Told Gonzalo Torrealba that this colt's going to be something, and he's been very good. But he kind of starting to dip down on his numbers as far as magazine numbers to where they're getting to be stakes quality numbers. So I'm hoping as he gets older, because he's a big colt, he kind of comes to what I told the Three Chimneys team he was. So hopefully Friday we can kick it in. It's a competitive race. I see there's some real nice other horses in there, but hopefully our guy shows up.
And I also see that you have Fantastic again in the Texas Turf Classic.
Yeah, it's a little hot to go down there, so I think we're going to opt out of that and go north. We're going to take him up to Canada.
Now, I would be remiss. We did have some very sad news come out regarding D. Wayne Lukas, the coach. This is, ever since I can remember. I grew up in horse racing, and I can picture him with the sunglasses, the tie. He's had such an impact on the sport, front side to backside. He's not only helped launch the careers of some of our biggest stars in racing, but he's also, in terms of the equine, but also the trainers that have come from his barn as well. And so we learned recently that due to medical issue, he's going to have to step back away from training, and it's very sad. Our love and prayers go out to the coach and his family. But do you have any recollections that are meaningful to you that you've shared with him?
Yeah, when I was a jockey, I started riding in the 80s in New York, and he was the greatest, and just kind of he was winning everywhere, had stables everywhere, very organized, very sort of, his barn was run like military, just like up early and trained, and beautiful barn, impeccable when you walk around it, just not a straw out of place. And I was always enamored by the way that he cared for the horses. And so throughout my career, he was always in the Breeders' Cups and winning everything there was, derbies and everything back then. So when my career came to an end, I didn't know what I was going to do. My whole life since I was a little boy was focused on, I wanted to be a jockey, and then I was a jockey, and then I grew out of my job. And so I had applied for the racetrack industry program in the University of Arizona and spoke with Lonnie Powell, and he got me in. But when I stopped riding in September, I wasn't going to start school until January, the second semester. So I had quite a bit of time. So I'd gone down, Mike Pewich, a friend of mine, was moving his stable from Seattle down to Los Angeles. So I finished riding at Arlington Park the first year they ran there. And I went down with him, and wasn't sure what I was going to do for those few months, and either go back to Chicago, for that time until I started to go to college. And I was only 21 at the time. And so my friend suggested, maybe getting a job with Wayne Lukas and seeing how he ran things. And I kind of spent a few days out there kind of watching him. And so I went to his barn. I'll never forget this. They opened the track at 4:00 in the morning. That's when you start training. 4:30 in the morning at Santa Anita. That's when the gates swing open, and all the great horses, or the better horses, sort of trained early. That's a time of which all those trainers like to train their best horses. They felt like the track was the best. And so I went to his barn at just before 4, and he was there. I'll never forget this as long as I live. And he was, getting things in order, sitting at his desk, and they were kind of getting ready to put the saddles together to get the horses out, 4:15 or so. So I said, Mr. Lukas. He goes, yeah. I said, Wesley. Hey, Wesley, how you doing? He's always very nice. I said, I just stopped riding in Arlington Park, and I'm out here, and I said, I would love to work for you. I said, if maybe as some sort of a exercise rider, and then go on for there. I was still light enough to breeze horses and things like that. And so he goes, I just stopped like 4 or 5 days before this, just stopped riding. And he goes, yeah, sounds pretty good. He says, just give me a day or two. I said, no problem. So I gave him a day or two, and 3 and 4 and 5. Finally, I went back to his barn, and he goes, Wesley, I've been thinking about it. He says, sounds pretty good. Maybe in another week, we'll be able to put you somewhere. I said, okay. And so I said, just how much are you going to pay? And he goes, I think the salary is $230 a week. And I said, oh, thank you very much, Mr. Lukas. So I went back and I thought about it, and I said, man, $230 a week. And I was used to being a jockey, I just came from I hadn't even got my last check yet from whatever races I'd won that week. And I thought about it, and I said, I went back to him. Got up 2 days later, 4 in the morning. I went to him. I said, Mr. Lukas, I want to thank you very, very much for that opportunity, but I think I'm going to go back to Chicago. And that just memory stuck in my mind about him. And had I gone in hindsight, I would have took him up on that offer, because who knows what it could have led to, But what a great guy. He's won everything there is to win multiple times, and he's changed the sport and all the way up until today, and he's longevity. And he's a guy, just like I was saying earlier about my kids. I want them to get into something that they love, and as you can see, he's 90 years old and still getting up every day and going to the barn. He did what he loved all the way through, and that's better you can say that's what they love to do, and he did it all the way through. And he's just always such a gentleman and wonderful guy. He's the leader of our sport of all time.
Oh my goodness, that it's a beautiful, beautiful words for, again, just a really inspirational figure in our sport. And thank you for sharing that story, because I feel like all of us that have had the opportunity to meet him, to speak with him, spend any time, even if it's just been a couple minutes, you leave with such an indelible memory.
Yep, always.
Always. And I feel this, you talk about gentlemen, you've always been such a gentleman as well, Wesley, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, friend.
And we'll be looking forward to all these babies, including this weekend. And I'm hoping we get you back on here, because, you get that win in your end ticket punched.
I know if I'm back on, we're doing something right.
That's right. Everybody, I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. Wesley Ward, one of my favorites here to kick off the 8th season of the Future Stars Forecast. We'll check you back here next week.
Bye-bye.